Mom, Dad, I just have to say, it breaks my heart watching you stress over dinner every night. This year, I don't want you doing the fridge stare down. Hot take. With the new Blue Apron, eating healthy is easy. They've got pre-made and one-pan meals with plenty of balanced nutrition. No subscription needed. You could be plating like a chef instead of negotiating with leftovers. Make it your healthy, tasty, and easy 2026 dinner resolution. Just saying.
Get $50 off your first 2 orders plus free shipping with code STIR50. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.
And then there were 14. That's right. Just 14 teams remain in the hunt for a place at Super Bowl 60, Levi Stadium, San Francisco. For the 18 others, the dream is over. The Kansas City Chiefs, gone. The Baltimore Ravens, gone. The Detroit Lions, gone. All fancied before a snap had even been made. Now all sit at home looking on. But like the 14 remaining in the dance, Graves on Gridiron is coming into the postseason red hot on the back of a perfect 3-0 weekend against the line. So, what are we waiting for? Let's turn the page and look ahead to Super Wildcard Weekend. It's the playoffs in the NFL.
Graves on Gridiron with Richard Graves.
Hello, welcome along to the show. This is Graves on Gridiron. I am your host, Richard Graves, and I am delighted to say that for the duration of the postseason, we're bringing in the big gun himself. Charles Dagnall is coming with us from start to finish, Super Wildcard Weekend, all the way to Super Bowl 60 in San Francisco. Daggers, it's great to have you along for the ride.
Well, it is. I'm thrilled to be asked. And what's going to be interesting is that even though I am at home and you are at home and we're recording this remotely, we will continue to do so. But I am going to India for a month tomorrow.
Is this to spread the word of the NFL?
It is to do. Well, it's actually to spread the word of Graves on Gridiron. I think there is a huge untapped market of 1.4 billion people there, and there may be some listeners in India already, and you can help us if you are. But no, I've got a tournament I'm going out to, which I'm always excited to go. The WPL, the Women's Premier League out there, which will be great. It's always fantastic. But I am thrilled to be asked to go through the playoffs with you. I'm super excited about joining you, and super excited about the business end of the season, because now all the bets are off, really.
Absolutely. And the thing is, Daggers, you set the benchmark. You challenged me at the beginning of December when you went 3-0 against the line. I hadn't done it all season long, and I just couldn't go the season without at least reaching those heights. So in week 18, the week I'm going to label as the toughest week to predict any game, when the lights are brightest, when the pressure's most intense, your big-time players make big-time plays in big-time games. And Graves on Gridiron delivered a perfect 3-0 against the line. We don't really need to look at the other 17 weeks because we might have just finished the fraction losing record.
I was saying, I was sitting in my smugness, having started the season 0-5-1, and I needed something big. And then when I went 3-0 against the line, I was filled with this sense of just, I don't know what it was. I felt on cloud nine, and I felt superior to you. And it's a nice feeling for me, that. It's a very nice, and now you go.
Just reeling you back in, Daggers.
And now I'm smarting, and even though you have bigged it up, you have gilded the lily, you have over-egged the pudding so much. But I will give you your props. I'll give you your flowers. That it isn't an easy one to call that, because given what we watched in week 18, and we didn't exactly know who was playing and for how long and what backups were going to be in, I think you have done well. So your flowers, there you go.
And I'm going to take them. Thank you very much. You're a very gracious guest.
Well, we're still sort of in the festive spirit, aren't we? We're still sort of.
As Bill Belichick would say, on to 2026, Daggers. We'll just recap last week. The 3 picks. The Rams, 7.5-point favourites against the Cardinals. They won that by 17. The Lions, 2.5-point dogs going into Chicago. I said then, and I reinforced that I'm not sure the Bears are the team that their record says they are, and Dan Campbell wanted to prove that once again against a divisional rival. They got the job done. And then the Ravens Steelers, I just held up my hands, Daggers, last week and said, frankly, I don't know who's going to win this game, but there'll be more than 41 points scored. And for 3 quarters, it didn't look like that. But then Aaron Rodgers and Lamar Jackson let the fireworks fly, and it was the Steelers who ran out winners, AFC North champions, I should say, and the number 4 seed in the AFC section of the playoffs. We'll start with that game. What a way to round off the regular season.
It was thrilling. I mean, it was intense anyway for the first 3 quarters. You know, obviously, the Baltimore Ravens were feeding Derrick Henry. He was responding. He had 100 yards by halftime. And you thought that was going to play. And there was a lot of chat, wasn't there, about the sort of state of Lamar. There was a lot of talk about whether he's, prior to this game, whether he's going to be in Baltimore next year.
In the preview that I gave last week, I actually suggested that Tyler Huntley might be the better option than a semi-fit Lamar Jackson. Now,
and he's not been fit for a while,
we've spoken about this before, and if you take away his ability to scramble, extend plays, and run, I think you take away the essence of what Lamar Jackson can do. That being said, he stepped up with some big-time throws in that fourth quarter.
Yeah, he really did, and I thought it was a real shootout in that fourth quarter. I mean, some of the things that happened, there was some defensive sort of the heads just went, the coverage mistakes that were made, leaving receivers wide open, and then it was going to and fro. And I've got to give, you look at Aaron Rodgers' performance, though, in this, and essentially, without DK Metcalf, who was suspended, they became a kind of screen team. And he used his checkdowns a lot, but he used them very cleverly. And there was a couple of passes from Rodgers where you could have said this is a 15 years ago old Aaron Rodgers throw. There was one to Pat Freiermuth in that fourth quarter where there was a fag paper for him to throw it down around about sort of 20-yard pass. It was 25-yard pass, and he nutted it, and it was just a thing of beauty. And DK Metcalf will be available to him in the first round of the playoffs, so that's something. But I just thought it was a fabulous game to be decided on a Tyler Loop missed field goal, which, Chris Boswell missed the extra point earlier, and he thought, is that going to be the thing that separates these two sides? And I feel for the young kid. He's a rookie and, a huge amount of pressure on him. But that was everything you wanted. What a final game to lead you into playoff football. And that for me was everything. I thought the Steelers actually were pretty good offensively, and they put the ball in the guy. Where do you want the ball in the fourth quarter of a game? You want the guy to with number 8 on his back to actually go out and take the ball by the horns and lead their side. And that's, winners want the ball.
Absolutely they do. And as is always the case, at the end of the regular season comes Black Monday. We saw several firings. Raheem Morris of the Atlanta Falcons finished the season on a 4-game winning streak, but an 8-9 record was enough for Arthur Blank to say, I've seen enough, we're moving on. Equally, the Raiders, nobody's surprised. I think Pete Carroll is one and done in Vegas as they now hold the number 1 pick in the upcoming draft in April. The Cardinals said that Jonathan Gannon, after 3 years, that's enough, thank you. It's time to go our separate ways. And then the Cleveland Browns decided that it was time after 6 years to part company with Kevin Stefanski, twice named NFL Coach of the Year. Of all of the dismissals we've seen, that for me, Daggers, was the most surprising one.
It absolutely was. And Kevin Stefanski is going to get he's going to be out of work for about a millisecond, let me tell you. And I think this has fallen in his lap pretty well. And I'm looking at Cleveland here and love to get your thoughts on this, because I look at Cleveland and they're probably not in a position to draft a quarterback. I think he's going to have to, if he was staying next year, he'd have to have a season of Shedeur Sanders, or even Deshaun Watson, heaven forbid. But, he's had so many quarterback in that carousel at Cleveland, and he's had nothing to work with, and he's managed to still get them to playoff football. defensively, the Browns are set. But I think that next year, given where they're drafting, unless they were to do some maneuvers, trading up or trading down or whatever, to get one of the 2, maybe 3 first-round quarterback options of next year, I think there is numerous teams who have already said goodbye, and you're looking at maybe, could he be interested at Las Vegas with a number 1 pick? Most likely Fernando Mendoza, who has been tearing up trees, Heisman Trophy winner. Could he be interested there? Could he be interested, at New York Giants with a first-year Jackson Dart?
Perfect fit for him.
I do. Because there's most likely to talk about the Giants drafting a receiver to go along with Malik Neighbors. You've got Cam Scatterbo. You've got a lot of pieces there and something to work with. So I am surprised, but surprised that they've got rid. But I think if you're Kevin Stefanski, I think you're better off out. What do you think?
I think he wakes up this morning and it's a massive weight off his shoulders. Everything that's gone on there, you're telling me that Haslam family turn around and say it's about winning games of football, and ultimately we've not won enough games under Kevin Stefanski. Great guy, great family, but we think our future lies on separate paths. Well, I will say Stefanski's got an organisation that includes Myles Garrett, by the way. Props to him for breaking the sack record, becoming the all-time sack leader in a single regular season with the 23rd sack of the season for him against the Bengals and Joe Burrow on Sunday night. But offensively, Deshaun Watson, Shedeur Sanders, who was the other quarterback they drafted ahead of Sanders?
The left arm, Dylan Gabriel.
Dylan Gabriel as well. And that's just in... Well, so Joe Flacco was in that mix as well this season. And you're looking around and saying, well, what... You can only coach what you have. And when the pieces keep changing as rapidly as they have been doing in Cleveland, and the fiasco, the media circus that's gone around, particularly the Deshaun Watson move and what the organization gave up to get him there, which was draft capital and to a degree hamstrung them in cap space as well. I really struggle to see how you place so much burden of the blame on Kevin Stefanski and don't look quite so heavily at the GM position. But it's a decision the Browns have made. Time will tell whether they're right or not. What we do know is they're not involved in the postseason, so their planning can start now. This show, we're in the business of postseason football, Daggers. We have 6 super wildcard weekend games to look at, and we're going to start with the first that kicks off at 9:30 p.m. UK time on Saturday evening. It's the LA Rams, who finished the regular season with a 12-5 record, going to Carolina to take on the Panthers in a repeat of a matchup we saw in December when the Panthers stunned the Rams, effectively ending their number 1 seeded hopes in the NFC. And effectively, hindsight's a great thing, but it was the result that put them over the edge and won them the NFC South. And by virtue of that, it's why they're in this matchup this weekend. I know it's close to your heart. I know it's still painful because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are sat at home looking at the next season as well now. But tell us what your initial thoughts are on this matchup.
Well, I know we've got a lot of games to get through, so I'm going to keep my answers relatively short for me. However, I think there's a little bit of karma for Carolina. I'm actually really pleased for Dave Canales. He went, he left Tampa Bay the right way. He got, he had a great year with us as offensive coordinator and got offered the head coaching job. And to take a team which was just mired in misery in Carolina and to actually take them to the playoffs, albeit with a losing record, I go tip of the hat to you, because I'm still not convinced about Bryce Young whatsoever as a starting quarterback in this league. So I've got to say well done to Dave Canales. I also think there's a bit of karma as well for Carolina. Yes, the Bucs beat them on the final game, but they were hosed massive. I can say this as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan. They were hosed by the officials in that game against the Bucs. They really were. They got so many calls against them, and I was thinking this is fortunate from a Bucs perspective. So a bit of karma for Carolina. I just can't see, Richard, the Rams making the same mistake and Matt Stafford making, what was it, 3 interceptions did he throw in that game against the Carolina Panthers? And that's not to take away from a very sturdy and stout Panthers defense. They are better, far better defensively this year. Still got JC Horn. There's Scourton, the rookie, is a very, very good player. They've got some big men up front, which can cause a little bit of problems. But I just can't see Stafford and McVay having a similar type of day, and also the Rams defensively, allowing Bryce Young to throw as well as he did in that game. I think this is, for me, it just feels the way that the NFL have scheduled this, it feels like this is your little, just an easy entry into the playoffs. Let's just have a bit of a charcuterie board with some cheese and crackers before we have the main meal. And that's what it feels like to me. What say you?
Well, the Rams, I think, understandably, are heavy favourites, even though they're on the road. Yeah. The odds makers have them as 10-point favourites, which is a big margin, especially when you consider we're in the postseason. But if you're going to have blowouts, they often come at this stage of the postseason, at Super Wildcard Weekend. And the Panthers, they're in the playoffs by virtue of winning their division. But that only tells half the story. Not one, not two, but 3 teams, Daggers, finished joint top of the NFC South with an 8-9 record. In a 17-game regular season, 8-9 has got you into the postseason.
Just shows you how competitive the NFC South is. Or how utter bilge they all are. One of the two.
Well, and you look at the way the Panthers finished the regular season, they lost 3 of their last 4 games. It's hardly ideal form to be taking into a win and progress or win and go or lose and go home scenario. And you look at them offensively, overall 27th, passing offense 26th, rushing offense 19th, scoring offense 27th. And then you look at who they're facing, the LA Rams. And I know you can turn around and say, yes, but 5 weeks ago we beat them at this very stadium. Different time, different scenario, different context. The Rams go into this with a point to prove. Sean McVay now has tape of what to expect. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Well, he isn't going to be fooled this time, let me tell you. And now, it's the number 1 ranked overall offense coming into Carolina. The number 1 ranked passing offense. The number 1 point scoring offense. They're averaging over 30 points a game. There is no way lightning strikes twice here. And I will just say flat out now, this wildcard weekend, it's going to start with a bang. The Rams aren't only going to avenge that November the 30th loss. They're going to do it by covering this spread, and they'll do it in a canter. They win by more than 10.
Yeah, easy. I think I couldn't agree with you more. What I will say is, just as a slight aside, arguably the 2 hottest teams in the NFC South were the New Orleans Saints and the Atlanta Falcons towards the back end of the year.
The Saints finished well. Yeah.
The Saints finished well. They've found their guy in Tyler Shuck, and if they add a few more weapons around him, they could be feisty next year. I'm looking forward to seeing it. But as you say, this is also a playoff experienced and hardy team going against one who's not seen the playoffs for quite some time. Experience counts when it comes down to knockout situations. Experience really does count.
Yeah, it does. And when you consider it's Matthew Stafford that's quarterbacking the LA Rams, somebody that's been there, done that, worn the T-shirt, and now he's in the process of taking down league records over his career. I don't think there could be a worse possible matchup right now for this Panthers team.
Just the one thing the Panthers have to do, which they didn't do against the Bucs last year, is lean on that running game. Look, how many times have we heard the Panthers say, keep pounding? That is what they have to do. With Chuba Hubbard and Rico Dowdle, they have been their 2 sort of success stories, but Dowdle in particularly, they've got to get back to that run game.
So just to clarify, you're taking the Rams as well to go at -10.
Yes.
Okay, we are of an accord then through the first game. The second game on Saturday kicks off around 1:15 a.m. Sunday morning UK time. This is a tasty one. It's an NFC North battle. We saw it only a couple of weeks ago when the Bears avenged their defeat in Lambeau, which in itself was only a few weeks before that. Mm-hmm. So they've split the series during the regular season. Packers and the Bears, they're 1-1. who takes the decider and who goes on to divisional weekend. The Bears finished 11-6. They have the number 2 seeded position in the playoffs in the NFC. The Packers, with that weird-looking record of 9-7-1, they were missing Jordan Love for the run-in. They lost, I think, 4 games straight, was it, or something stupid in the run-in as well? So what are your initial thoughts on this, Daggers?
Well, my initial thoughts on last year in Super Wildcard Weekend, we had a lot of lopsided games, a lot of blowouts, and it wasn't until the divisional round that we got some really, really tasty ones. I've got to tell you, the rest of the lineup is mouth-watering. I cannot wait. And I think a lot of them will be very, very close games, actually, and maybe 1 or 2 upsets from the norm. In this instance, I just look at what Detroit did to Chicago last week. Now, Chicago didn't rest anybody. Okay, Kelly Williams played. They played in front of their home fans, and they ended the season in defeat. Now, okay, it didn't really matter in the long run, but these small things...
Does that impact this matchup?
I think it might. And the reason is the Chicago Bears have been such a fourth quarter team this year, and their schedule hasn't been overly strong. They have managed to burgle victories, and look, you've got to credit them for doing so. And there is a sort of wave of euphoria that swept across the Midwest because of the performance of the Chicago Bears this year. However, I just think, granted, no Micah Parsons for the Green Bay Packers. They've had to deal with that for the last couple of weeks or so. So they've had to adjust defensively. But I think with Jordan Love coming back, he's fresh. I think that they rested a lot of players in that game against Minnesota. So it's almost like having a little bye week for the Green Bay Packers. And again, we talk about experience and people who are used to playoff football, and now Jordan Love is a little bit without it being overly successful. My gut, and this is where a lot of these things come down to in knockout situations, I think you've got to go with your gut. My gut tells me that even though Chicago and Soldier Field is going to be rocking on Sunday afternoon, I just feel I've got to go with my gut and go with, I think the Packers might just nick this.
Well, I'll tell you now, the odds makers can't decide. They have the Bears as 1-point favourites going into this game, and that is essentially by virtue of holding home field advantage.
Yeah.
I am not inspired by either of these teams coming into Wildcard Weekend. Let's just go through the Bears' results since November the 2nd. One in Cincinnati, beat the Giants, one in Minnesota, one at home to Pittsburgh, one marquee win on the road at the Link against the Philadelphia Eagles. My thoughts on the Eagles will become apparent a little bit later. They lost in Green Bay in a game they came within a gnat's hair's breadth of nicking at the end. They thrashed the Cleveland Browns. They beat a Green Bay Packers team without Micah Parsons, without Jordan Love, and then they lose on the road in San Francisco and lose a game that, in essence, the Detroit Lions had no interest in last weekend. And yet they came into Soldier Field, played all their starters, and even though they were going home regardless of the result, they won 19-16 on the road. So I keep saying, look, I don't want to take anything away from Bears fans who, God knows, have had to endure some misery over the last decade or so. You finished the season 11-6, all power to you. My point is, I don't see many wins that I can hang my hat on there and say, yeah, they're the real deal. I see plenty of potential and games they've won that in previous seasons they might have lost, but that's a fairly low bar. Now, you look at who they're playing, and I mentioned the Green Bay Packers have lost 4 in a row. And I know Jordan Love's been injured and he's missed several games, but you lose a big game in Denver when what are we really? And you lose Micah Parsons in that game, which was the absolute killer. You then lose Jordan Love in the next game in Chicago. Malik Willis comes in, plays really well, but the Bears find a way to win it. And then the last 2 games, well, you're probably already preparing for the playoffs, but you lose handily to Baltimore and then lose last weekend to the Vikings. My point is, I go back to that first Bears matchup for the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field. You take a double-digit lead, and you have Jordan Love on the field, you have Micah Parsons on the field, but you allow Caleb Williams to start feeling himself, running around, making plays, and even with Rashad Gary and Micah Parsons, you couldn't get to Caleb Williams. Well, now you flip it forward. You're in Soldier Field. This place is going to be bouncing on Saturday night. Bears fans are rabid for this. Yes, Jordan Love comes back. He hasn't played a competitive game in nearly a month. You have no Micah Parsons on the field. You've suddenly brought in Trayvon Diggs, who wasn't wanted in Dallas because he's been playing that badly. 1 point, I think it might be close, and it might be a case of who holds the ball last. But for all my doubts about the Chicago Bears, what they put on the field this weekend is what we've seen all season. What we see from the Green Bay Packers, I'm not so sure.
Okay.
I'm going to take the Bears at -1. I think that the Ben Johnson effect, Caleb Williams, I think he gets them over the line. So are we differing here?
We are differing, and I think that's probably what the odds makers are looking at as well. I think I've got a funny feeling the Packers might nick it, but I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't. If you know, if you know what I mean.
There's some splinters you're needing to remove there, Daggers.
Well, but we all are, aren't we? I think there's so many arguments for both. It's Jeff Hafley, I think, isn't it, the defensive coordinator for the Green Bay Packers. If he can scheme something to put a little bit of pressure on Caleb Williams, that would be good. I don't think what I would like to see from the Green Bay Packers, and I know not necessarily, they have got receivers who can spread the field. That's what I do like about them. And that doesn't necessarily lend itself to long, time-consuming drives. Okay, it's sort of quick burst scoring for the Green Bay Packers. That's what it's sort of. But I would like to see them use a little bit of clock. Matt LaFleur is, he's still got a wealth. I mean, there was talk of Matt LaFleur leaving Green Bay. I think that
bonkers.
Was just crazy. Because you've also got to look at other options that are out there as well. But I think Ben Johnson will, he's not in uncharted territory as a coordinator for Detroit. He's played in playoff games and called playoff games, but he's a head coach now. It's slightly the shoes on the other foot. And again, we go back to the experience, and that's all I can really separate these teams. Maybe one side blows out the other and we're both made to look foolish. But I'm leaning Packers' way, Richard. I'm just going to separate from you there.
Okay, well, whilst you're removing the splinters, I'm going to be bold, Daggers. I'm going to put my head on the block, and I'm going to go on record right now and say it's as simple as this for me with the Green Bay Packers. They made a huge off-season move a week before the start of the regular season, and Micah Parsons was the man that was going to get them over the hill. Well, here we go. No Micah Parsons. Green Bay Packers, listen up. No chance. Give me the Chicago Bears at -1.
Oh, hang on. I'm going to put my neck on the block. I'm going to go with the Chicago Bears at -1. Well, huge neck on the block sort of thing.
No indifference on this side of the microphone, Daggers.
You are as splintered as I. Move on.
On that note, 4 more games to come. Don't go away. We'll be back after these short messages.
Graves on Gridiron with Richard Graves.
Welcome back to Graves on Gridiron. The Saturday night games have already been previewed. We are on to Sunday. First game is 6 p.m. UK time, late Sunday afternoon, early Sunday evening. And we turn our attention to the AFC now. And the Buffalo Bills, who finished the regular season with a 12-5 record, are on the road to perhaps the surprise package of this regular season. The 13-4 Jacksonville Jaguars. They finished in some style last weekend, handling the lowly Tennessee Titans to secure home field advantage and the AFC South title. Does it surprise you then, Daggers, that they start this game as 1.5-point dogs at home to Buffalo?
No, because I think bookmakers go and Vegas will go with what they know. And I think what they know is Josh Allen is usually in and around the AFC Championship game in one way or another. So I think that's the way that they lean. I also think, are they completely sold on Trevor Lawrence? And look, I've been a huge critic of Trevor Lawrence, not necessarily just in the time that it has taken him to get to where he is now and the way that he's been playing. And he has been lights out over the last sort of 6 or 7 weeks as well. Not just through the air, but also on the ground. He's accounted for quite a few rushing touchdowns as well. So I'm really pleased. It's nice. I like seeing, high draft picks go well. You look at someone like Sam Darnold, who's done so well for the Seattle Seahawks, but he was thrown out of New York. He was thrown out of Carolina, and now look what he did in Minnesota and Seattle. So I like these stories of I don't like to see busts of any young player or whatever. So it's good to see that Trevor Lawrence has maybe found a head coach and an offensive mind that is aligned with him.
Great
and can
first
get the
season
best
for Liam Cohen there in Jacksonville.
Yes, and Liam Cohen I don't feel the same about as I do for Dave Canales and the way that he left Tampa Bay, but still, moving swiftly on, and my bitterness aside, he's done a really, really good job. The way they run the ball with Tootin and with Travis Etienne, the way they threw them. I think one of the most astute pickups this year has been Jacoby Myers for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He has come on.
Seasoned in the second half of the season.
Well, absolutely. And Parker Washington, he's got 3 really good options. And Brian Thomas has started coming back from his sort of drop issues of the early season, and he was nowhere to be seen really in the early part of the season. So I'm not surprised by the Buffalo Bills being favoured. I think it's, again, a really tasty matchup. And I think the only thing that decides this game is Buffalo's quarterback. It is on him. If they are to get to the promised land where they've not reached yet with Josh Allen, I think it is on him. He doesn't have a huge amount of help. The 2 biggest offensive weapons they've got are him and James Cook. And, Keon Coleman has not really, he's been fine. Shakir's been fine. Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid, they're fine, but they're not there's not that number one guy that you feel that Josh Allen should actually have. But they make do. They make it work. And again, do you go with the experience? Jacksonville, they had a little flirtation with the playoffs, didn't they? A couple of years back.
Well, if you remember, they had that sensational win over the Chargers, didn't they, a couple of years ago?
That's right. They were 30 down or something like that, and Trevor Lawrence brought them back. But it is I feel splintery again on this one. Again, I go with experience. I think that, yes, Liam Cohen can draw up a really good game plan for Buffalo. Again, Duval County will be rocking with a home playoff game. And look, that home field advantage is just that. Can Sean McDermott overcome the Jacksonville Jaguars? Yeah, I think he can. Can he overcome necessarily a Denver Bronco or maybe New England Patriots? I don't know. Well, that is a different kettle of fish. But can they handle the Jacksonville Jaguars at home? Yes, I believe they can. And I just feel there's some sort of sense of destiny. 1.5 points, yeah.
You see, that you asked a lot of questions there, Daggers. And you mentioned there were splinters. We don't like splinters. We like definitives on this preview show.
All right, then. All right, I will put my neck on the block, as you did so beautifully in the last game. I'll put my neck on the block and say Josh Allen will go forth to the divisional round and brush aside the Jacksonville Jaguars by about 3 points probably. But still, that's what he'll do.
Finally, we bring Daggers out of his shell and off of that fence. Here's what I know coming into this game. Whilst it might surprise a few people, I think this is a defining game for the head coach of the Buffalo Bills, Sean McDermott. If the Buffalo Bills go one and done in the postseason this time around, I think it might be the end for Sean McDermott in Buffalo. Really? I think there's been questions asked in previous seasons, as well as they've done, as many times as they've been to the postseason. There's a train of thought around the Bills that they've had a window now for a few years with Josh Allen in his prime, and they haven't managed to get it done. I think the clock's ticking. I think with no Kansas City Chiefs, no Baltimore Ravens, I think many people in the greater New York area feel now is the time for Sean McDermott. I think this game is decided by the run game. James Cook, you mentioned there for the Bills, their leading running back on a big money contract extension, and he's lived up to it this season. 1,621 yards on the ground is impressive. But now you come up against the Jacksonville Jaguars team, who have won 8 straight. They aren't just hot going into the postseason. They are roaring into the postseason. They have home field advantage. They also possess the league's number 1 ranked defense against the run. So this is the matchup in a nutshell for me. Can James Cook run the ball? Can the Jags stop the run? Because if they stop the run, then you put the ball into the hands of Josh Allen. And what have we said when we've had preview shows together this season? Or what have I said, should I say? When the Buffalo Bills go a little bit off script and have some strange results go against them, it's because Josh Allen tries to do too much. Instead of taking what's there and obvious, he tries to make the Superman play. If that happens in this game, this Jacksonville Jaguars team will cause the upset and will beat Buffalo. That being said, I think Josh Allen is too long in the tooth. I think he's got too much experience. I don't think, given everything that's gone before in the postseason, he makes that mistake here in this game this weekend. He's been the MVP of this league for a reason. He's the face of the franchise in Buffalo for a reason. He wants to win a championship. They haven't done it. Given the teams that aren't in the postseason this time around, I think he also sees this as his opportunity for him and for the Buffalo Bills. So put the team on my shoulders. We'll go on the road. We'll go into North Florida, the home of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and we will get the win. The Bills are winning this game, and they're doing it covering comfortably as well. 8 games unbeaten it might be for the Jags going into the postseason, but the postseason is a whole different kettle of fish. You've had a good season, Liam Cohen, as a rookie head coach. It ends here this weekend. Give me the Bills at -1.5 points.
I'll tell you something, though. Just to pick up on a point that you raised, you mentioned about there's no Kansas City Chiefs, there's no Baltimore Ravens, but there's no shouts for Andy Reid to lose his job. There's no shouts for John Harbaugh to lose his job. There is maybe a little bit of a muttering, but I just can't see it. I think he's been there so long, and I think he'll decide when it's his time. But for Sean McDermott, remember the Bills are going to a brand new stadium next year. Do they necessarily want to go into that with a brand new head coach? And I just can't see, even if the Jacksonville Jaguars beat them, I just can't see Sean McDermott losing his job. I think. Brandon Beane's got to find, a wide receiver one for Josh Allen to throw to. That's what I think. And maybe a secondary which has been questionable for a number of years. That said, I just don't see Sean McDermott, but I do see the Buffalo Bills taking the W at
the short answer to that question is no. No, I don't think the Buffalo Bills want to go into a new stadium with a new head coach. But I do know there's been a lot of noise. And if they were to lose a game that ultimately they'll feel they should be able to win this weekend, I will add a caveat to that. I can't. Was it 4 or 5 seasons ago? Final game of the regular season, Buffalo went into Jacksonville, a Jags team that had nothing to play for again. Buffalo will win and you're in. And they got turned over by the Jags. Yeah. Josh Allen was part of that experience as well. I think all this goes into the melting pot. And I think Josh Allen's the type of guy that will learn from his mistakes, that does learn. And I think he gets the job done this weekend with Buffalo. So we agree. The Bills are going to progress. They'll do it by covering the slender 1.5 point spread. Next is a game that I'm looking forward to. It's the late window on Sunday. It's a repeat of the NFC Championship game from 4 or 5 years ago now. But it might not even be that long, 3 or 4 years ago. Brock Purdy got injured, and then his backup came in and got injured as well, and that was it for the 49ers as the Eagles went on to lose the Super Bowl to the Kansas City Chiefs. Well, the 49ers have had all sorts of injuries this season, yet somehow they've still cobbled together a 12-5 record, and going into the final game of the regular season in Seattle last Saturday night, they were in a position where if they won it, they could be the number 1 seeded team. They didn't. They came up short. It was a good game. Now they go cross-country to Philadelphia to play an Eagles team that finished with an 11-6 record, inexplicably for me last weekend. Rested all their starters, when if they'd won the game and beaten Washington, they could have been the number 2 seed. They could have been hosting the Green Bay Packers this weekend. Am I missing something here, Daggers?
That really stunned me. I mean, I think there, and correct me if you think I'm wrong. I actually heard this on one of the commentaries at the weekend, that it's, or maybe a podcast, that it seems that if you are an NFL team, you kind of, and you've already made the playoffs, there's this, and you're not the number 1, you're not going to get the bye. I think there is this element of, we kind of don't care now, we just want to make sure we're fresh and healthy. And I do see that. I do see that point, and you don't want any of your stars getting injured. And I don't think they necessarily now, these days, are looking at who potentially could be coming into their house. They're going to be at their house. They'll have to take on whoever, whenever. So I'm with you. I'm a little bit surprised, though, because I don't think it would have taken an enormous amount to beat a Josh Johnson-led Washington Commanders unit. So maybe,
well, crikey, let's put it in some sort of context.
The
Dallas Cowboys went to Washington on Christmas Day with that defense, and they still came out with a win. I get it from a sort of maybe a defensive standpoint, but don't you want to get your offense a little bit more cooking than it's been? Because that's been the Philadelphia Eagles' problem over the second half of the season. And I mean, there's been 2 games this season, 2 games when Jalen Hurts has neither completed a pass nor had an offensive passing yard in the second half.
Yeah.
And somehow, the remarkable statistic is the Eagles won both of those games.
Yeah.
You might get away with it in the regular season. You won't if it happens this weekend.
I would want a little bit of rhythm. Wouldn't I think here's an offense that's crying out for it. Defensively, Philadelphia, no problems. They're very, very strong defensively. That front 4 as well is especially Jalen Carter, who's just a game wrecker at the defensive tackle position. Their linebacking crew is very good. Greg Baum, Zach Bourne. Zach Bourne, yeah. And in the secondary they're pretty reasonable as well. So I don't think defensively Philadelphia have got to worry. But with the weapons that they have got and the output that they have received from them, it's been woeful. So that is why I would have been tempted against a Washington Commanders unit, which are basically like turnstiles. They just allow any rusher through and any passer to get open. To just breed a little bit of confidence against the 49ers. Now, here's a question, and I don't know the answer to this, and you probably do because you're across all things. Ricky Pearsall, Fred Warner, are they back? Are they going to be back and fit for this game?
If there's any way Fred Warner can play, believe me, he'll be on that field. Whether he is or not, it's another thing entirely. And I don't. There's a bit of
chat though.
Yeah, I don't think. Even if he makes it, we're not going to find out till game day. There's not a chance the 49ers as an organisation are going to give that caveat away. If Fred Warner is able to suit up on game day and takes the field, how much of a lift does that give that group of players? And the fans that will travel to the link as well in numbers. So it's going to be a watch this space for Fred Warner. I think Ricky Pearsall will be involved this weekend, but for as well as he's played this season when he has been healthy and on the field, he still score a touchdown, have a receiving touchdown this season. So Fred Warner's the bigger key to this game for me. When you look at it, the matchup as a whole, though, what did they say at this time of season? Defense wins championships. And you highlighted the Eagles' defense there and how good they are. And without doubt, when you consider there's been 2 games when they haven't had a single offensive yard in the second half, they've kept their team in games and helped win games. And yet, there is an Achilles heel to this Eagles defense. Stopping the run. 22nd in the NFL when it comes to stopping the run. And who are you going up against this weekend? Not only a head coach that every offensive game plan he has is predicated on being able to run the ball, but you've got Christian McCaffrey in the backfield as well. This is a massive red flag matchup for me when you look at this game as a whole. if the Eagles can't find a way to stop Christian McCaffrey, they cannot find a way to win this game for me. It's that simple. Jalen Hurts will have to be the Jalen Hurts that we saw at key moments last season. And frankly, I've yet to see this season. If anything, he's regressed this season. So, and if it starts going south, this could go south quickly, given the various noises we've heard coming out of the Eagles camp at various stages throughout the course of this year. This for me could be the matchup that ends up being a shock blowout. And that's not tongue-in-cheek at all. I mean that in every sense. I sort of think that the Eagles, in many respects, are fortunate to be at the 11-6 record position that they are in. And I don't know what to make of them, quite frankly.
They're a side, I feel, that's got that. And maybe that's sort of, like dogs that look like their owners. And I think Eagles look like their head coach, or some teams are like their head coaches. And there is a sort of an explosive element to the Philadelphia Eagles that the team could just combust on itself. And given the nature of Philadelphia sports and the link, and if the San Francisco 49ers can possibly stifle the Philly offense and get the crowd sort of booing early and letting them know what they think of their team earlier. And I'm totally with you on this. If anyone is to scheme against a seriously good defense, it's Kyle Shanahan. And with what he has available and the way he does now, I know they went up against which I think, which probably statistically, you'll have to tell me, but statistically is the best defense in the league in Seattle last week at Santa Clara.
Yep.
And they were shown up because that is such a good unit. I mean, it's a scarily good unit. And the way that Mike McDonald's has got them playing. So yes, they came up short, did the San Francisco 49ers, but with just, I think Pearsall does make a difference. I know he's not scored such well. I think he makes a huge difference. Whether it be, between down the numbers or in the middle of the field, I think he has got a great ability of getting open.
Yeah, and we haven't even mentioned George Kittle, of course, who's such a
George Kittle as well.
This passing offense.
And I think that gives a defenses, two things, more things to worry about.
Yeah.
When it comes to the 49ers.
And the other point
given how many times you're going to use McCaffrey on the ground and through the air.
The other point I want to make as well, which I really think is worth highlighting, is that for all the injury concerns, and at times the 49ers have been decimated this season, they have a defense giving up under 22 points a game, which is remarkable. And now you look at the way they've come into the postseason, and they lost 13-3 on the road in Seattle last weekend. But before that, November 16th in Arizona, they scored 41 points. They put 20 on the board against Carolina, 26 in Cleveland, 37 at home to Tennessee, 48 on the road just before Christmas in Indianapolis, and then put 42 on the board against Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, if ever a team's flown under the radar, I feel it might be this San Francisco 49ers team, which is remarkable. So when you put it into that sort of context, I have no shame in saying the Eagles are 4.5-point favorites going into this game. I'm taking the 49ers every day of the week and twice this Sunday. Give me San Francisco to win by at least 5.
This is the one that I feel most confident about. As you know, I like fence sitting and the splinters are firmly wedged into my backside. This is the one that I feel that...
There's an image.
Yes, and I'd like to try and paint the picture as you will. I do. I feel really good about the San Francisco 49ers. And because they have just flown, everyone's talking Seahawks. And are the Rams the best offense in football? Is Matt Stafford MVP? Is this the best defense in football? Meanwhile, you've still got a side who has, got double-digit wins underneath. They in a very, very tough division and have still put points on the board and defensively sound. I like them. I really like the San Francisco 49ers. Will they go all the way? I don't know. But in this instance, I think if there was a side to go into an opposition camp and get the result, I think it's them. I feel it's them. And I'm with you on this one, Richard Graves.
Niners by at least 5?
Yeah.
We're of an accord.
Yeah. I can see a Philly implosion. I really can.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Okay, 4 games down.
AJ Brown's going to be reading books and all sorts on the sidelines, and Nick Sirianni's going to be throwing headsets at people.
Well, you never know.
And that's within
he
the
might be listening to our podcast to hear the final two previews?
He could.
Let's hope so. AJ Brown, if you are, don't go away. We'll be back after these short messages.
Graves on Gridiron with Richard Graves.
Welcome back to Graves on Gridiron. 6 games to preview in Super Wildcard Weekend. 4 have already gone down. Only 1 do myself and Charles Dagnall disagree on right now. That's the Packers and Bears game. We'll recap shortly. We have the final 2 games to look ahead to. First of all, Sunday Night Football. The 11-6 Chargers going cross-country to the 14-3 New England Patriots, the number 2 seeded team in the AFC. And Mike Vrabel, talk about a homecoming. How has he turned this Patriots team around?
I mean, there are so many candidates this year, aren't there, for Coach of the Year? You can talk about the teams that have done so well, but after, I think you've got to look at where a side was and where they've got to in the following year. And I think someone like Dave Canales is a good candidate for something like a head coach of the year. As you know, Mike McDonald took a middling team and has taken them to great heights. But you look at where they were under Jared Mayo and what Mike Vrabel has done, granted with maybe some very, very key additions for the New England Patriots, he's done wonderfully well.
And the progression of Drake May has been phenomenal this year.
I mean, this guy, I look at him and I think there are probably maybe 25, 26, maybe even more sides in the NFL who are looking at New England. They've had to deal with 20 years of Tom Brady, right? And the success of the New England Patriots. The last thing any of those teams, especially in the AFC East, want to see is New England with someone that found their guy so soon after losing their guy. And Drake May could be, and very probably will be, that guy. The way he's played, what I like about Drake May, sorry to indulge me just a little bit, but his pocket presence is really, really good. Stepping up into the pocket, finding just a little bit of a soft zone in that pocket when the pressure is on to allow himself that little bit of extra time to find the open guy. And I've been so impressed with the range of passes that he has, the touch he can put on them, as well as the lasers that he fires. All arrows pointing up for the New England Patriots. Is it too early to suggest about Super Bowl? Who knows? But I think all the arrows are pointing up. And I said they would be dark horses this year.
You said the Baltimore Ravens were going to be your team this year.
Yeah, no, I said, no, I will go back and listen to the tapes, Your Honour. If you remember back right at the beginning of the season, I said that the Baltimore Ravens would be Super Bowl champions. I just missed out on that one. Meanwhile, I said the dark horses of the NFL would be the New England Patriots.
Of course, there was a caveat to cover your backside, wasn't there?
Don't you know me at all? Everything comes with caveats, so I've got an easy excuse ready-made. But no way did I think they'd be like this. I mean, no way. Now, people will talk about the strength of their schedule, and it has been one of the easiest. And it's not their fault. You know, they've put up who they're put up against, and they've gone out and they have done the business. They went into Buffalo and got the victory in Highmark Stadium. Yes, Buffalo came back and beat them in Gillette.
And let's be honest, that's a game they should have won. They were up by 3 scores.
3 touchdown lead, pretty much, and they should have won that game. So getting out to that lead has got to be, still a pretty good thing. So they have been tested towards the back end of the season a little bit. And I think I would be foolish to go against a side. Now, I like Jim Harbaugh. I really do. I like him. He's a character. I love Justin Herbert. I think he's fantastic. But I just worry about that offensive line of Los Angeles. It has been decimated. They've had to go through so many tackles. I think they were through to the 5th string tackle that was starting for them. So despite the fact that they've got, game changers, a great quarterback, a very good defense, Derwin James and Khalil Mack and these players win. I just think that at home, they were bitten against the Buffalo Bills. I don't think that happens again for the New England Patriots. And I am taking the Patriots for the win at home.
The Pats are 3.5-point favourites.
Yeah, and I'll take them.
You think they win that fairly comfortably? Okay.
I think they can win it by a touchdown. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I will point you in the direction of the LA Chargers defense, which ranks number 5 overall through the regular season, 5th in defending the pass, 8th against the run, 9th in points allowed. They're giving up just 20 points a game. They're 4th in takeaways. Jim Harbaugh knows what it takes to get to the big dance in the NFL. And he's done it, as you point out quite rightly, with a decimated offensive line. My problem comes not with the offensive line, not with the wide receivers, not with the defense. It comes with Justin Herbert. If there's a man under more pressure, feeling the burden of expectation this weekend than anybody else involved in the playoffs, I want to meet him. Because the last time Justin Herbert was involved in the postseason was in this round on the road at Houston when he threw a career-high 4 interceptions. It was ever since then, that's the shadow he's been trying to escape. And until he manages to win a game of this nature, he ain't escaping that shadow. And to do it, he goes to Foxborough to face a team that has the 8th ranked overall defense, 9th defending the pass, 6th against the run, 4th in points allowed. New England, despite that easy strength of schedule, only have been given up 18.8 points a game. And then you talk about complementary football. Well, how's this for complementary football? The number 3 ranked offense, 4th in passing, 6th on the ground, 2nd in points scored. They've been putting up a lick under 29 points a game. Yeah. They haven't been beating teams so much as been destroying teams. And I tell you that defeat at home to Buffalo might, in hindsight, have come at exactly the right time for this young, inexperienced New England Patriots team, because it'll have given Mike Vrabel something to point to and say, look what happens when you become complacent. And there is no room for complacency. It's lose and you go home at this stage of the season. So with that in mind, with the pressure that the Chargers face, the fact that offensively they've had so many issues on the offensive line, as well as at tailback, that's been a revolving door through the course of this season. And they only average 21.6 points per game on offense. Not enough in this game, not enough on the road in Foxborough. Give me New England, the Patriots to win and cover at -3.5 points.
I can't really add to it. I think, do you know what? This Patriots offense, I like the twin-headed monster of Ramondre Stevenson and Travion Henderson, which is not easy to say quickly when you've got big lips like mine.
And you haven't even been drinking.
I haven't even been drinking, not yet. But I like the fact that Drake Mayer's got, he's got Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper. He's got, Stephon Diggs, whether he should be playing or not. Moving on. Keyshawn Booty, he's got really good avenues and options. I like the balance of this New England offense. I really do. And those running backs can break them from pretty much anywhere. We saw that actually in that Buffalo game. So I just think there's too many things going against the Los Angeles Chargers. I don't think Herbert has... I don't know if there's a huge amount of that much pressure. I remember that game you talk about, that 4-touchdown game, and everyone was just agog at the way that someone like him, with his vision and his awareness and his arm talent and just calm and composure, actually sort of really came up against it on that day. So I said I don't worry about Herbert so much as I worry about the offensive line and their running game. I really, Marion Hampton is back. That's great for them, and he pound it. But I just don't see them having enough to overcome this New England Patriots side.
Well, the good news is we agree, Daggers. We're both taking.
Well, very weird. We're both taking
this. Let's finish up. Monday Night Football, the final game of Super Wildcard Weekend. The Houston Texans at 12-5, going on the road into Pittsburgh to face the 10-7 Pittsburgh Steelers. Is it 18 seasons now as head coach of the Steelers for Mike Tomlin? And never once a losing regular season record. It's nothing short of phenomenal. He's done it with different quarterbacks, different defenses, different offensive weapons, and now it's Aaron Rodgers' turn. The favourites very clearly the Houston Texans with their defense, which I think ranks number 2 in the NFL coming into this game. They're 3.5-point favorites on the road in Pittsburgh with the terrible towels and all. Are you surprised?
I'm not sure. I tell you what, this whole podcast episode here, Richard, I've had to go first on all of it. Let's stick you first. You give us your thoughts on this. Are you surprised the Texans are 3.5-point favorites?
Well, if you take the premise that defense wins championships, and I'll stand corrected, it's not the number 2 ranked offense. The number 1 ranked overall offense belongs to the Houston Texans. Defense, rather. I'm getting my words and offenses and defenses mixed up. But
you're not used to going first.
I'm not used to going first. You're quite right. But they are the number 1 ranked defense in the NFL. 6th against the pass, 4th against the run, 2nd in points allowed, just 17.4 points per game. Defense travels, and it's going to need to travel when you go into somewhere like Pittsburgh, because it's the history, it's the expectation, it's the experience. Mike Tomlin on the sideline, Aaron Rodgers under center. You touched upon it right at the start of the show, that we saw flashes of the old Aaron Rodgers in a must-win game last weekend against the Baltimore Ravens. But that hasn't been the story this season. 25th overall ranked offense for Pittsburgh. 22nd in passing. 26th in running the ball. 15th in scoring, 23.4 points per game. And the defense hasn't exactly been stout either. There's 26th ranked defense. Everything in my being wants to say the Pittsburgh Steelers win this game because they have home field advantage. And I've doubted the Houston Texans for a lot of this season, and they keep proving me wrong. And you look at the way they finished the regular season, and all I see are wins on the board going all the way back to November the 2nd, which was the last time they lost, 18-15 in their house in a game, frankly, I felt they should win against the Denver Broncos. But since then, a stunning come-from-behind victory at home against the Jags. They win in Tennessee. They beat the Bills. They win in Indianapolis. They win in Kansas City. They thrash the Arizona Cardinals. They beat the Raiders. They win on the road against the Chargers. And they finish off last weekend in an entertaining game, winning in Indianapolis. They've done everything you could ask them to do going into this game. And yet, what was it you said earlier to me, Daggers? Sometimes it's a gut feeling. So sometimes there's just something that you know.
Go here.
So I will tell everybody that the facts, the statistics, what's been put down on tape, what we see on paper, tells me that the Texans win this game. And they might. The problem is they're 3.5-point favorites, and they don't win it by 4. Give me the Pittsburgh Steelers to cover at plus 3.5.
I never, ever, for the life of me, thought you would take the Pittsburgh Steelers on the line here. Genuinely, I never did. And what you have just said is absolutely what's coming through my head. You know what? It's a head and heart game, right? Because your head tells you that the Texans have got it over the Pittsburgh Steelers in pretty much every department, right? My heart tells me, do I want to see Aaron Rodgers go deep into the playoffs? I do.
No, you do, Daggers.
No, but do you know what? I want to see it. I think it's a great story. I like great stories, and I want to see that. Now, I love the Houston Texans. I love that defense. And Will Anderson, I could just watch him rush the passer. I just love the engine on that guy. What a player he is. And DeMeco Ryans has done a hell of a job with that defense. You know, and they found a groove offensively as well. And CJ Stroud, we were worried that he got that sophomore syndrome, second season syndrome, after his outstanding rookie year. And he's come back and he looks really good. And remember, this is a Houston Texans side that won 3 games with Davis Mills at quarterback as well.
Yes, they did.
So, you know, and they actually put up points offensively with Davis Mills. So there's so much going for the Houston Texans over what seems to be quite a tired Pittsburgh Steelers defense, and offensively they've not got a great deal going for them. Yes, they'll get DK Metcalf back.
I think he's huge.
Well, he is huge, literally and figuratively. And you know what? I think he is and the way that they managed to put points on the board without him last week, and let's be honest, they need more pieces than DK Metcalf.
That's what impressed me most about that win. That they're able to put over 25 points on the board in a must-win game at a time when your opponent is firing bombs and scoring touchdowns for fun. They showed me a side of their game that I hadn't really seen up until that point, and I keep coming back to it. You want to play your best football at this time of year, and I just have a sense that might be what we're seeing from the Pittsburgh Steelers. And if that is the case, then give me DK Metcalf, give me 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers, give me 36-year-old Cam Hayward, give me TJ Watt in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, they've not got many opportunities left. Hayward and TJ Watt, you know, they've peaked and they're on their way. They're on their way down. Similarly with someone like Aaron Rodgers and Jalen Ramsey. You look at, I mean, this is an oldish team, really. And what I really enjoyed was watching Jalen Warren and Gainwell for the roles that they played.
Gainwell may be the key piece if Pittsburgh is win this weekend.
I really like him. And I like the roles that they played. And you know, for Aaron Rodgers, he was more than happy to take the 4 yards there, to take the 6 yards there, to you know, just hand it off on second down, because actually their second down was usually around about a 2nd and 4 or 2nd and 5. Yeah, if you can get it to 3rd and 2, then that opens things up a little bit. You might just want a little flick out into the flat, or actually use it as 4-down territory and go with the run. And I liked the way that Pittsburgh Steelers sort of made the Baltimore defense think, given the pieces that they had to play with. And I will go back, and I don't know how much of the Texans' defensive starters played at the weekend, but I watched that game and it was a fantastic game. But I think the majority of them did. And Riley Leonard and the Indianapolis Colts put 30 on them. So let's not say they're completely infallible. A great game. I really enjoyed that game, watching it. And you know, okay, the Texans were on the road, but still. I just think that I'm with you. I'm with Gut. I'm going to... You know, if you want to will something to happen... Are you going to agree with me here,
Daggers?
Yeah, no, well, I never ever thought in a million years you would take the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know, in my heart, I thought, well, yeah, we didn't agree with the Packers and Bears, but I know one where we are going to disagree later on. So that. Don't worry, listeners and viewers. But I have the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think they are going to make... I was going to say Heinz Field there, but that's not right. No. It's some other random name field.
New sponsor, which I can't tell you off the top of my head.
Is it Acrisure? No, it's not Acrisure. So anyway, in Pittsburgh, it's those towels they're going to be waving from minute 0 to minute 60, and I think this is a side, a Pittsburgh Steelers fan base that aren't necessarily expecting any great things. So anything good that happens, I think they'll, you know, I don't think they're necessarily, they're not like a Philly crowd who are going to sort of get on their backs soon enough. I think they're going to understand their situation and think, you know what? Let's hope for the best. Let's see how we go. And I want to see Rodgers. And if you will something to happen so hard, it will happen, Richard Graves. Not happened with me for the lottery as yet, but who's to say that won't change?
Absolutely, especially, Daggers, if it happens at Acrisure Stadium.
I thought I said Acrisure. I nearly said it. I said Acrisure. Oh.
Right, listen. We've already been going an hour and 10 minutes here. This is the longest Braves on Gridiron show we've ever had. So we're already breaking records as we head into the postseason. Let's recap the 6 games we've previewed coming into Super Wildcard Weekend. We start with the Rams and Panthers. I can't even get my words out. The Rams and Panthers. The Rams 10-point favourites. Daggers and I both agree the Rams win this one comfortably and cover that spread. Then it's on to the Packers and Bears, the late Saturday night game. Bears 1-point favourites. I believe in Chicago for this game. Give me the Bears to cover at -1. Whereas Daggers says give him the stuttering, coughing and spluttering Green Bay Packers at +1.
Go, Pat, go!
Oh, Lord. On to Sunday. Bills, Jags in Jacksonville. The Bills 1.5-point favourites. We are of a like-minded accord here. The Bills cover at minus 1.5. Then it's the Niners in Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. Will it be love or booze being dealt out by the Philly fans to the Eagles come the end of this game? Both Daggers and I think there could be an implosion in the link. Give us the Niners at 4.5-point dogs to cover at plus 4.5. Yes. Then the Chargers and Patriots. Pats 3.5-point favourites. We both agree the Patriots live up to the billing and win this one comfortably, covering that minus 3.5-point spread. Before we finish in Acrisure Stadium, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Monday Night Football. The Texans are the team in form. The Steelers shouldn't be winning this, but both Daggers and I think they cover at plus 3.5. One of us might be repeating with a perfect record for the second time this season. Of course, there's every chance that neither of us do. Time will tell, folks. Enjoy Super Wildcard Weekend. Daggers is with us all the way to Super Bowl 60. There's no getting away from him, even when he's in India. It's been great to have you with us, Daggers. Look forward to doing it all again next week.
Thanks, Richard. Thanks to all who listen, and can't wait for this weekend and to speak to you next week.
Absolutely. So long, everybody.
Subscribe to Graves on Gridiron wherever you listen to podcasts. And keep up to date with the latest on Twitter. Search for Richard Graves 1. That's Richard Graves, the number 1.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
With CarGurus Discover, you can skip the filters and describe what you're looking for in your own words. Simply type what you want, and CarGurus Discover instantly surfaces real listings that match your exact needs. It's no wonder CarGurus is the #1 most visited car shopping site according to SimilarWeb's estimated traffic data. Buy or sell your next car today with CarGurus at CarGurus.com. Go to CarGurus.com to make sure your big deal is the best deal. That's CarGurus.com. CarGurus.com.